Did Iran carry out an atomic test explosion? Are the nuclear talks on the verge of collapse? And in the Gaza Strip, Hamas is losing control and executing Gazan civilians, and the IDF keeps fighting with force while making sure to show the world that the terrorist organization's true face is evil. And we will not forget to bring you every detail about the social media flotilla of liars to the Gaza Strip after Defense Minister Israel Katz publicly declared, Greta, turn around. You will not reach Gaza. The flotilla was indeed intercepted, and we'll tell you all about it. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. I'm your host, Yair Pinto, bringing you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel. An analysis of the report published on May 31st by the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed that in 2003, Iran carried out a simulated atomic explosion meant to test several of the components for a nuclear bomb. This includes implosion tests of a warhead core, and there is absolutely no reason for Iran to have done this if their nuclear program is for peaceful civilian purposes, as they've always claimed. Iran is angrily denying the report, as they always do when they get caught red-handed. And we'll talk about that more later in the report, including Israel's involvement in finding Iran's nuclear secrets and exposing them to the world. We'll also talk about the effect that this latest revelation is having on the ongoing nuclear talks, which are actually on the verge of collapse. And closer to home, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, announced that it has conducted a pilot of direct aid distribution to residents, not only at aid centers. And according to the foundation, 29 truckloads of food were distributed. And in addition, the foundation noted that distribution at the aid sites proceeded without incidents on Sunday. The step, it said, was taken to ease pressure on the distribution centers and was carried out by local merchants. GHF staff also received threatening messages from Hamas saying, "We will not forgive you for harming the dignity of the people. There will be severe consequences. Stop now." A glimpse of what Hamas means by severe consequences came in the last 24 hours as the IDF released captured footage of another Gazan civilian who was publicly executed in the city center. This unusual step was taken by the coordinator of government activities in the territories, Major General Ghassawan Aliyan, over this weekend. And elsewhere, the IDF spokesman launched a strong counterattack to all the lies being told about Israel, revealing documents which proved that the civil defense spokesman, Mahmoud Basel, who issued hundreds of press releases to foreign media, is an active Hamas terrorist. And on the kinetic battlefield, the IDF began a series of strikes in the Jabalia el-Balad in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, and simultaneously a terrorist who took part in the Nova massacre was eliminated. And at the same time, the identification was completed, and it was confirmed that the remains of Muhammad Sinwar is in Israeli hands. And according to the IDF, senior Hamas members stayed in the compound beneath the European hospital, managing the terrorist groups fighting from there. Now, the remains of those found in the tunnels have been examined and positive IDs have been made, including Sinwar, but also including other senior Hamas operatives. So we will bring you the full footage from the underground compound where these evil men came to the end of their violent lives, and we'll also share some of the valuable intelligence that the IDF found alongside them concerning the IDF's maneuver in Gaza. And switching to the northern arena, the IDF struck a Hamas operative in southern Syria over the past 24 hours as the United States announced that it is considering the option of ending its financial support for UNIFIL and its activity in southern Lebanon. Israel is supportive of the move as the Lebanese National Army has stepped up and taken control of the area, making UNIFIL's presence largely unnecessary. And another thing making UNIFIL unnecessary is the fact revealed over the past 24 hours that Hezbollah has lost 80 to 85% of its firepower and no longer has the ability to launch broad fire at Israel. And finally, the social media flotilla that was approaching Gaza's shores on Sunday has been intercepted by the IDF, and the self-absorbed celebrity protesters on board are on their way back home. Israel has made it clear over and over again, any attempt to break the naval blockade on the Gaza Strip will be stopped. So we'll bring you the details of how the IDF took over the Medellin with no violence and minimum drama, which is the exact opposite of what the crew wanted. So guys, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 612 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region that are taking their orders from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. And a moment before we begin, I want to tell you thank you for helping us spread the truth. And if you want to support our work, hit that subscribe button or hit the donate button on YouTube, or visit our website at tbnisrael.com/give. And never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Let's start with the Gaza Strip and all the information from the field, Boots on the Ground style. Yesterday, an aircraft directed by the 98th Division struck dozens of terrorists who had left combat sectors near IDF troops and posed a threat to them. In addition, the 282nd Brigade struck and eliminated terrorists who are inside a command and control compound in the Jabalia area. As has been widely reported, the IDF and the Shin Bet forces launched a special operation last Wednesday at the European hospital in Khan Yunis. The operation was meant to determine conclusively what had happened to the Hamas leader Mohammed Sinwar and the other terrorist operatives who were with him inside the tunnels that were built under the hospital when the site was hit by the Air Force several weeks ago. Upon examining the tunnels, Sinwar's remains were found and identified together with the remains of several other senior Hamas figures. Also found were large stockpiles of weapons and valuable intelligence materials. The room in which Sinwar's body was found was almost completely intact and contained personal items, furniture, and weapons. On Sunday evening, the IDF released footage from the compound showing, amongst other things, the communications equipment, the computers, and the networks that Sinwar and his henchmen used to direct Hamas operations throughout the Gaza Strip. Along with the video footage, the IDF released a statement saying, throughout the war, the IDF has repeatedly exposed Hamas's use of hospitals across the Gaza Strip for terror activities and to hide senior members of Hamas's military wing. The underground infrastructure reached by the IDF lies directly under the European hospital in Khan Yunis and was also built by Hamas. The Hamas terror organization continues to use hospitals in the Gaza Strip for terror purposes, cynically and cruelly exploiting the civilian population in and around the hospital. And in a related story, the coordinator of government activities in the territories, Major General Ghassan Aliyan, published unusual footage in the last 24 hours showing a Gaza resident shot dead by Hamas operatives before the public in the city square this past weekend. Aliyan said, "People of Gaza, the terrorist Hamas criminals are killing you and do not care about your lives. There is no difference between a dictator who kills quietly and a terrorist who butchers openly. Both are your enemies and the enemies of life." The shocking footage before you is another desperate failed attempt to sow fear in the public in order to preserve Hamas's rule, power, and governments, while cynically trampling and exploiting the people of the Gaza Strip for the survival of Hamas's terror regime. General Aliyan wasn't the only one issuing statements over the past 24 hours. The IDF spokesperson's office also released documentation proving that civil defense spokesman Mahmoud Bassel, who has issued hundreds of statements to the international media over the past year and 8 months and was even quoted in Israeli media occasionally, is in fact an active member of Hamas. To be clear, this is not uncommon amongst the so-called civil organizations inside the Gaza Strip. In any case, Basel, in his role as civil defense spokesman, exploits his position to spread false and unverified information to the international media, falsely attributing war crimes to Israel and presenting distorted figures. This is especially significant amid recent events that have included false worldwide reports of gunfire and chaos at humanitarian aid distribution points. And about a week ago, testimonies were published worldwide claiming that during aid distribution, civilians were instructed by drones to reach distribution points but were attacked before arriving. Ambulances cannot enter areas near aid distribution centers, and the wounded are transferred by civilians themselves. The northern Gaza ambulance official told Al Jazeera some wounded are waiting more than half an hour for ambulances due to lack of resources. Graphic images circulated on social media showed Gazans dead and wounded near an aid site. The GHF Foundation denied these reports, noting these are lies and fabrications. Major media outlets rely on unverified reports. Hours after the incident, the IDF released footage from the distribution area that disproved the claims in the world media, but the damage was already done. After the IDF exposure of one of the sources of these stories, and amidst the growing international criticism, the IDF said that the information Basel disseminated received worldwide media coverage and caused serious distortion of reality on the ground. The IDF calls on media to exercise caution with unverified information published by Hamas, and particularly by the civil defense in the Gaza Strip. This is according to the statement. And the IDF presented several documents listing Basel amongst Hamas's terrorists, as well as his classification document for the terrorist organization's military apparatus. All of this is an example of the information war that is being waged against Israel, and it's a reminder why these boots-on-the-ground reports are so important to fight back against these lies and distortions. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to spread the truth, and we need your help to do that. So please, help us share these videos with anybody who wants to know what's happening in Israel, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube to help us reach more people with daily updates of Boots on the Ground. And speaking of the truth, like you have heard endless reports in recent weeks and months about the bad situation in the Gaza Strip, with many people not getting enough to eat. Almost no one anywhere is talking about how hundreds of thousands of Israelis are also not getting enough to eat, and so I want to tell you a few things about that. In the wake of the recent conflict, Israel faces unprecedented challenges. Over 30% of the country's agricultural land lies in conflict zones, leading to the loss of millions of pounds of crops. This has exacerbated food insecurity, with many families displaced and struggling to access basic necessities. Leket Israel has made it their primary mission to combat this crisis by rescuing surplus food from farms, from hotels, and from suppliers, and they provide fresh, nourishing meals to those that are most affected. Their efforts are not just about food, they're about restoring dignity and hope to communities in need. But they can't do this alone, so your support is critical in helping Leket Israel continue their vital work. As the scriptures remind us, "For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink." This is your opportunity to make a difference in Israel. So guys, visit mealsforisrael.com. That's mealsforisrael.com and donate now. Together, we can help rebuild lives and communities one meal at a time. Now, getting back to the news and staying on the topic of feeding hungry people, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, announced on Sunday that it has conducted a pilot of direct aid distribution to residents, not only at aid centers. According to the foundation, 29 food truck deliveries were carried out. In addition, the foundation noted that distribution at aid sites proceeded without incidents on Sunday. Amidst the rush on humanitarian aid in Gaza and the fear of looting by Hamas, the GHF decided on a strategic change. For the first time since it began operation, aid distribution was carried out by 11 trucks, not through distribution hubs as before. The apparent reason is to ease the pressure on the hubs and allow continued orderly food distribution to the residents. In response, the Hamas terrorist organization sent a threat to the GHF workers, a last warning which said, "We are fully aware of everything that you are doing. All your moves are monitored with great precision. We will not forgive your involvement in projects that harm the honor of our people and serve suspicious agents under the guise of humanitarian work. If you continue in this way, there will be severe consequences and you will bear full responsibility for the results of your actions." In other words, Hamas is accusing the GHF of helping wrong and threatening them with violent retribution if they don't stop. Candidly, I'd like to hear from the ordinary people of Gaza, who Hamas says that they're so worried about their honor and their dignity. These people that everybody says are starving because Hamas steals all the food meant to be given to them and are now receiving the food that they need from someone else, and that is, according to Hamas, a bad thing. Guys, do you agree with Hamas? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Please, let me know. I'm curious to hear. Now, getting back to the report, at Tel El Sultan in Rafah, the food truck distributed a total of 4,800 boxes, providing more than 277,000 meals to the residents in the Gaza Strip in that area. And in the Saudi neighborhood in Rafah, the trucks distributed 3,840 boxes, providing more than 221,000 meals to the residents. In Wadi Gaza, in the center of the Gaza Strip, the trucks distributed 8,640 boxes, providing more than 500,000 meals to the residents. In a total of 10,560 boxes were supplied, providing about 609,840 meals to the Palestinian people in Gaza. Now, let's get into a more detailed look at how this is all being accomplished, and like I said, you can let us know in the comments if you agree with Hamas that this is something which harms the dignity and the honor of the Gazan people, and if so, does that justify Hamas threatening to violently stop this process from even happening? The GHF claims that the food was delivered to Gaza residents through local merchants, and as we published today, the GHF is working to ease the pressure on aid centers by distributing food to local areas via trucks while trying to prevent Hamas terrorists from getting their hands on this food. And on Sunday, this was successful in distributing 1.1 million portions, mostly through the aid centers. And once again, here at TBN Israel, we will keep spreading the truth about what is happening in Israel. And if you like to get the truth, so please hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Now, we are switching our focus to the face-off with Iran. The International Atomic Energy Agency stunned the international community last week when a research document it delivered revealed that it possesses unequivocal evidence that Iran carried out a series of experiments involving the initiation and the detonation of a nuclear device, a process very close to the final stage of developing an atomic bomb. These experiments took place way back in 2003, and in a special report published by the agency on May 31st, it was disclosed that Iran conducted internal implosion tests, entirely militarily experiments with no civilian use. Such tests are considered an essential step in developing a nuclear warhead, but the report adds that they were performed without disclosure in violation of Iran's commitments under the international agreements. And according to the new report that was released recently and examined, amongst others, by the Institute for Science and International Security, this is a think tank, a significant portion of the agency's findings relies on intelligence materials obtained by the Israeli Mossad, as part of the 2018 operation to seize Iran's nuclear archive in Tehran. The report notes that Iran conducted explosive tests on neutron-initiating systems produced at the Lavizan Shihan site, with the experiments carried out at least twice in February and also in July of 2003. This is clearly military technology with no known civilian applications. In addition, evidence was found of another explosive test at the Marivan site in April 2003, in which similar neutron monitoring systems were integrated. Beyond the tests themselves, the report provides new details on equipment and materials that are located at the Varmin site, where contaminated UF cylinders, uranium extraction materials, fluorine chemicals, and radiation monitoring equipment were found. And according to the findings, the Iranian authorities classified the equipment in two categories: essential and non-essential. 5 cylinders were deemed essential, one of which contained the highest level of contamination, including small UF cylinders and other special materials. The report further revealed that additional sites, Lavizan Shihan, Marivan, and Varmin, were part of a secret organized nuclear program, with some materials and equipment transferred to the Turkuz Abak. This is a site between 2009 and 2018, after which their whereabouts are unknown. The agency also points to a direct connection between the 4 sites and the missing nuclear materials based on new intelligence assessments. And according to the report, Iran continues its efforts to obscure its nuclear activities, cleaned sites before inspectors' visits, and at times presented false or even contradictory information. The agency stresses that these explanations severely complicate the investigation process, and although some issues are now considered not outstanding, the IAEA clarifies that this does not indicate full resolution of the matter. The findings were revealed against the backdrop of advanced yet fragile contacts between Iran and the United States in an attempt to reach a new nuclear agreement, alongside the possibility of talks collapsing. This is a scenario that could escalate into military confrontation, including a potential Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The Institute for Science and International Security is currently calling on the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency leadership, to refer Tehran's violations to an urgent discussion in the UN Security Council. The discussions were expected to open on Monday and continue until the 13th of June. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will keep reporting on every development concerning Iran and its intent to obtain nuclear weapons to destroy the state of Israel. And now, before we move on to Hamas's supporters who boarded the Flotilla to Gaza, I want to bring you a report about recent events in the northern arena of Israel. Last Thursday, the IDF struck terror targets of Hezbollah's aerial unit in Beirut's Dahya quarter. The strike followed a warning issued to the residents of the quarter in Lebanon by the IDF Arabic language spokesperson's unit, Lieutenant Colonel Avichai Aderi. This is ahead of a wave of attacks on 4 buildings in the El Hadat, Harat, Herik, and Burg El Barjaneach neighborhoods. And according to the IDF spokesperson's unit, the army struck underground UAV production infrastructure. And on Monday morning, the IDF announced that an Air Force aircraft struck a Hamas terrorist located in Mazrat Bejan in southern Syria on Mount Hermon. Muhammad Abu Saf, a notable local figure, claimed that the target was Anas Abuad, formerly active in Syrian revolutionary factions. Abuad, and this is according to Abu Asaf, was seriously wounded in the strike. He also criticized the strike, claiming that Abu Asaf was not connected to any terrorist group and that these groups had never been allowed to operate in the village. I'm not sure he expected anyone to actually believe what he was saying, but in any case, That's what he said. And in related news, the Northern Commander, Chief Major General Uri Gordin, announced this week that the security situation on Israel's border with Lebanon is the best it's been in decades. According to him, Hezbollah has been stripped of 80 to 85% of its firepower and no longer has the ability to fire broadly. And now, we move to the segment that we have been waiting for. How did the IDF stop the lunatic flotilla to the Gaza Strip? In the end, after all the attempts to stir up some drama and scandal, the good ship Medellin and its crew of Hamas supporters was seized by the IDF's Shayetet 13 Naval Commando Unit without so much as a shoving match. As I'm recording this video, the ship is on its way to the Israeli port city of Ashdod, and the crew is on their way to the Ben Gurion International Airport, where they will be put on planes and sent back where they came from, once again without any drama or fuss. To make matters worse for the activists, this all happened in the pre-dawn hours, so there was no light for them to record videos for themselves being taken into custody and then post them on social media, which was the whole reason that they set sail in the first place. They knew that they'd never make it to Gaza, and even if they did, the tiny amount of food that their small boat was carrying wouldn't have fed many people. They didn't care about that. They just wanted to put on a big publicity stunt to make Israel look bad and make everyone pay attention to them and tell them how wonderful they are for bravely standing up to the Zionist war machine, and so on and so on. But in the end, the only picture to emerge from this encounter at sea shows the activists calmly sitting with their life preservers as IDF commandos hand them bottles of water and sandwiches. This adds a final layer of irony and perhaps also comedy to the event, as they said that they were sailing to Gaza to give food to other people. As I've said before, it is important to mention that Israel's naval blockade of Gaza is perfectly legal and legitimate under the international maritime law. But these activists on the ship, including the most well-known of them, Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, weren't there to follow any laws, international or otherwise. They were there to make videos for social media followers to watch and be outraged by, and there's no point in posting a video of nothing happening. In released footage, a Navy officer says the maritime area of Gaza's coast is closed to marine traffic as part of the naval blockade. If you wish to deliver humanitarian aid, you can do so via Ashdod port in Israel and official channels and distribution centers. And on 2:21 a.m., the Foreign Ministry issued another statement saying, with the latest reports about the celebrity yacht headed for Gaza, we clarify the maritime area off the strip is closed to vessels without authorization under a legal blockade in accordance with international law. The yacht claims to deliver humanitarian aid. In fact, it's a media gimmick for PR. There's less than one truckload of supplies abroad. It's a selfie yacht. An IDF statement around the same time said these activists don't intend to help Gazans. They come to make media noise in Israel and worldwide against the state of Israel. Knowing that the activists wanted a violent confrontation similar to what happened with the Mavi Marmara incident 16 years ago, the IDF prepared to stop the ship non-violently. Officials emphasized we mustn't play into their hands. The Foreign Ministry issued a statement saying that the celebrity ship is safely making its way to Israel, and Greta Thunberg is on her way to Israel safe and in good spirits. Additionally, Defense Minister Israel Katz said he instructed the IDF to screen for the flotilla passengers the atrocity video from the 7th of October massacre. His office issued a statement that it is fitting that the anti-Semitic Greta and her Hamas-supporting friends see exactly what the terrorist organization Hamas is, what horrors they committed against women, the elderly, and children, and whom Israel is fighting to defend itself against. While Greta Thunberg and others staged a media provocation for PR, On a ship carrying less than 1 truckload of aid, more than 1,200 aid trucks entered Gaza from Israel in the past 2 weeks. A clarifying statement from the IDF spokesperson's unit said that the blockade was imposed in 2009 due to concrete threats from terror organizations in the Gaza Strip, still directed today against Israeli civilians and IDF forces. The 7th of October massacre saw Hamas terrorists infiltrate Israel and murder civilians, including via the sea. So guys, to make a personal comment on all of this, I'm not sorry that these activists attempted to sail to Gaza, because it exposed them as the silly, shallow, attention-seeking people that they really are. However, I also think something good might come out of this, because they got to see the Hamas atrocity video from October 7th. Underneath all the fake compassion and drama queens and anti-Israel demonstrations, some of these people might still have a sincere desire to try and make the world a better place. Greta Thunberg, in particular, has drawn attention to some very important issues in the past, and I hope that watching this video and spending even a short amount of time with actual Israelis and Jews, probably for the first time in her life, will help her realize that she's on the wrong side of this issue. Greta, if you watch this, I hope that you enjoyed your short stay in Israel, and I hope that it helps you realize that if you really want to make the world a better place, supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization, is the wrong way to go about it. And to everybody else who's watching this video, please keep spreading the truth, share, and follow us. And above all, don't forget to pray. Guys, pray for the IDF soldiers that are risking their lives to defend all of us in the Gaza Strip, in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Judea and Samaria. Pray for our hostages to be returned from Gaza back to their loved ones in Israel. And let's unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.